Great. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Ingrid and Madalena, for taking us through that. I'd now like to invite the folks involved in the data governance and ethical considerations in digital solutions. We really went for conciseness with this session title up to the stage. So that's Manzoor. We have Kevin, I know, who is online. Liam. And Adam, I believe, is in the room from Bays Consulting. Welcome to the stage. Or, well, some nice seats here. Give him a round of applause. And without further ado, I think we'll just get Manzoor mic'd up, and he will be first, followed by Kevin, who is joining us online, and so we'll be sharing his screen, and then Liam, and then Adam. Unless you would prefer to go last, Liam? That's a good question. I think it's in here, but we can. Okay. Wonderful. Welcome to the stage, Manzoor.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Manzoor. I'm the CEO of HIGOE Limited, and my talk will touch upon two case studies. One is the solution that we're developing, and another initiative that has been born out of the work that we've done and the discussions that we had through the sessions here. So in our first case study, so what is it that we are addressing? So what we see in the UK is that we're in a crisis in healthcare. The population, elderly population, is rising. It's about 20% now, and that's increasing as time goes by. So a lot of those people are getting older, they're suffering from chronic conditions. So when you think about these chronic conditions, these are diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, and compounding that is that we don't have enough healthcare workers, and that all adds up to the cost. So how have I seen this? I'm a patient and public involvement partner in the NHS. I've done that for the last 6 years. So I've seen firsthand in the wards, within the community, going out to nursing homes, care homes, what is the issue that we're dealing with, and how can we tackle it? So I think based upon my personal experiences, I felt that we needed a solution. So our solution is Care Synergy. So what this does is it's utilizing AI, looking at the data from the individuals that are maybe in their home or nursing home, care home, and analyzing that data through wearables and sensors using AI, and see, can we predict something early? Because the way that the healthcare system is at the moment is reactive. When you get something, it's too late. Then it's like a firefight. So what we're trying to do is gather as much data as possible and try to nip it early, whatever that issue is. If it's type 2 diabetes, let's look at that kind of the patient-centric solution to alleviate that. So how do we get into this kind of solution? We entered a competition in Europe, a Eureka competition. We entered into 3 projects, and all 3 projects won. And all those projects around healthcare and utilizing AI, remote monitoring. And this allows us to work with our European partners in different countries to look at different kind of open solutions for data analysis, for AI, for cybersecurity. And by working together, by collaborating, I think gives us more chance to get our solution out in the market, not just in the UK, but into Europe and further fields. But one thing that we've seen is a problem is around the AI ethics, data privacy. We tried to look at ourselves, and we found out by our discussions within here and further that actually everyone's struggling with a similar thing. How do you grasp AI ethics individually when there's so many guidelines, so many regulations out there? Where do you start? And is it your own responsibility to come up with a solution, or should you do it collaboratively? And for us, I think by what we learned through the Turing Way Hub here is that collaboration is a really good way to kind of bring your solutions forward. So within AI policy development, I just want to kind of look at kind of key aspects. AI, yes, it has benefits to patients, where we look at admin kind of tasks. Also, at the same time, you have scans that can be done and can be analyzed by AI much more quicker than human eye. This is looking at detecting cancer and other kind of diseases. But at the same time, we have real implications. We're looking at patient safety. We're looking at errors, bias, and worsening of inequalities. So this is something that we need to consider. And then also in the UK, we don't have any regulation. Yes, in Europe we have the EU AI Act, but in UK we don't have anything. So this is another aspect, is that policy development itself, I think for companies, is really a time-consuming and difficult exercise done individually. There's many different ways to do it. You can maybe hire someone, or you can copy something from the net and say, what, this is my policy that I'm going to use, but it's never touched and it's never used. So we launched our own initiative. So we call it FEAI, First Ethical AI, and it's a collaborative approach of developing open policies for ethical and responsible AI. And I will just touch upon about how are we going to approach this as a collaborative. So for us, it's about working together. We're already working in Europe with so many different organizations and countries. So we're going to touch base with those and pull them in. Yes, we have our connections in the UK as well that we can tap into in the healthcare system. But at the same time, we are not saying naysayers that AI is not good. No, we're saying AI is a good solution, but we need to be innovative and have that kind of open mindset that we have to have the right policies around it. And then the key thing is we want safe, ethical, responsible AI for healthcare. And I think the next thing, which is really, we want to focus on improved patient health outcomes. And lastly, and not forgetting, the healthcare workers also need support. We're not saying to them, okay, now you're going to lose your job, the radiographers or whoever they are. No, we want AI to be a support tool for them. That's going to help them in their job. They're going to give them the kind of the guidelines that they need. They can maybe give them something about that patient that they need to be aware of. But at the same time, we agree there's many challenges ahead by doing this initiative. We have to find the right partners that are going to come with us on our journey. We need to find the consensus in the direction that we're going to go. At the same time, we're not a huge organization like IBM that have a lot of resources. We're small, so that's another challenge. But I think we can get there by starting small, by starting in the UK. And we already have built our AI ethics framework and our first policy, and we were getting that out for review. So what do we learn from the Practitioners Hub? I think we learned a lot of things. We had a lot of sessions, and I think with the colleagues here, Malvika, Ariel, and Lele, I think they've led the way, and us really changing our minds about open source, about collaborating together, about developing solutions. And I think for me, the key kind of areas were like the stakeholder analysis, the AI readiness, and the kind of the responsible decision making, in that they'll make us look in more depth about the AI ethics itself. And I think it's not just about developing policies, about giving other people that we collaborate with the tools that we learn from here. We can share those tools with them. And so I think that will make their work better. So we don't want the policies to be just stagnant policies. We want them to be active policies where people can act upon them. And I think is having things in parallel to those policies, like guidelines, that can work together. And I think the most other important thing that we've kind of learned from this is the networking. We met amazing things from the NHS, from other tech companies in healthcare, and from other sectors. And we can learn from each other. And hopefully what we're doing in healthcare will touch upon other people that are here. So what's next for us? I think for us, we already are working in Europe. We already have our partners, and we've been supported by Innovate UK for that project, and we would really like to kind of push forward on this initiative and get people on board and organizations. So we'll also be looking at seeking further funding, and lastly, Care Synergy is our core product. We really want to kind of change the way that healthcare is delivered, not be reactive, but more kind of preventative care and looking after the patients. And that's me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manzoor. If you want to take off the lapel mic and pass it over to somebody else, we are now going to move on to our online speaker. So as always, this is a bit of technological wizardry while I move over to here, and we should have Kevin online.
Hey guys, I'm sorry I'm not there.
Where are you, Kevin?
I'm actually in a 3,500-year-old Etruscan city called Orvieto in Italy.
You're in Italy.
And it's actually kind of appropriate. I'm in Italy, yep. Oh, better weather, definitely. So I'll get straight into it, not to hang around, and also because the connection is pretty ropey. And actually that is relevant to what I'm about to talk to. So
wonderful.
My name is Kevin Flagan.
Hit present, and then we can see, at the moment, we can just see the full. Oh, Kevin, I'm so sorry. Your network is really bad. Yeah, Kevin, do you want to turn your video off?
Should be in presenter mode now, is it not?
So, Kevin, you might want to turn your video off because we are struggling to hear you.
I will turn the video off and
turn the video off, and then you also.
Okay, no problem. I'll do that. Give me a second.
I love this. We can currently see presenter view of yours. So if you want to swap it over to a different view.
Okay, well, let me turn the video off first. Is that better? Is that better?
Yes, much better. Wonderful.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. If you do the presentation, I will. If you just do the PDF, I will talk to it. Okay.
Your next slide. Okay, wonderful. We'll do that.
Okay, so, because this ain't gonna work.
That's okay. Just don't go, because I can't do the presentation for you.
No, that's fine. Just do the PA. I'll tell you when to flip to the next slide. Okay.
Yep, no problem.
Is that okay? And you're doing the PDF. Don't do the PowerPoint because there's too many stops in it. Okay.
No problem.
Is that okay? So you let me know when you're good to go, and I will launch.
You're good to go, Kevin.
Okay, so my name is Kevin Flanagan, and I'm the founder of Co-ops, and our mission is to empower patients and therapists to find the road to recovery in mental health. This presentation describes our quest as experts in residence at the Turing. Next slide, please. So we're a 4.5-year-old startup focused on using digital technologies to augment talking therapies for treating mental health. We've won 3 grants to get our tools to minimum viable product, and so far. So what makes our product so unique is that we can be used for any talking therapy and any diagnostic. This is because our intervention is simple, powerful, cheap, and easy to understand. The core problem we are addressing in mental health is identifying and quantifying the baselines that are missing, and these are essential to a product. Next slide, please. Or you can use simple or sophisticated machine learning models in mental health. We need data. To get data, we need baselines, but we don't even know what a mental health problem is. And in the same terms, say, as that we understand what cancer is. This is confirmed by eminent researchers in the field and by evidence that treatment recovery rates haven't really improved over the last 50 years. So if you don't know where you're going, how useful is the most super sophisticated, all bells and whistles compass? The current AI surge looks likely to repeat the mistakes of the past. I ask again, where are the baselines, and what do we do? What do we need to do to create them and the associated data for ML or AI models? Next slide, please. There are significant ethical challenges in creating these baselines. These include the fundamental idea that the space in a therapy session is sacred, and that trust is essential and paramount element to recovery. Mess with this, and there's a major ethical dilemma. Our system records and analyzes highly personal therapy conversations and vocal biomarkers, making it one of the most sensitive forms of personal health data. Forget top secret, there's nothing that exceeds this from a personal perspective. Genuine informed consent from both therapists and patients is paramount. A clear governance framework is going to be needed to define who can access the data, under what conditions, and for what purposes. A core ethical dilemma lies in balancing individual privacy with the collective benefits of improved mental health treatments. The presence of recording devices in a therapy room raises concerns about their impact on the therapeutic relationship and clinical effectiveness. And lastly, a structured, transparent, and independent approach to oversight is crucial to ensure ethical integrity going forward. Next slide, please. So what sort of governance frameworks should we wrap around this, and what should we be trying to do? First off, it should be patient-led with clinical input. Too often in healthcare, medicine is done to the patient rather than with the patient. In our case, recovery is almost entirely within the mind of the patient, but we seldom ask them what that looks like. We thought we had an ethics policy, but it was as dead as the paper it was printed on. As a result of the program, we have adopted ethics and as an evolving living thing, with a review as a constant feature rather than as a once-off feature. What are the trust issues in patients' minds around cloud AI versus edge AI, and which serves their purposes better? Anonymization is hard, really hard, because there's a temporal aspect that is usually and frequently overlooked. What happens 3 years down the road to your anonymized data set when a third-party data set emerges that can de-anonymize your data set? It calls for a different type of governance. We need frameworks for digital in a healthcare setting to put all this in context. Next slide, please. As a result of participation in this program, we are re-examining our ethics using this framework from a recent paper. Key aspects we think are important are that digital does not stand alone. It sits in a complicated ecosystem, and the interactions need to be assessed. Rapid digitalization of healthcare risks widening existing health disparities. If digital solutions aren't developed with an equity view in mind, right, digital transformation could disproportionately benefit advantaged populations with greater access to resources. My call from Italy is a really good example of where connectivity is assumed, but not always available. We need to understand the digital determinants of health, factors such as digital literacy, access to Wi-Fi, patient control of their data, shared use of digital devices, opt-in versus opt-out, and we need to get out of the office and meet patients in their lives, not in an academic setting, not in a healthcare setting, but where they're actually living their lives. Finally, we need to avoid attribution error, where we overemphasize individual factors while underweighting contextual and systemic behaviors. Next slide, please. So, at the end of our quest on the Turing EIR program, these are my reflections. Our initial motivation was driven from several points of view. The Turing was a bit like the Holy Grail, hence the picture. It's a center of AI gurus and magical abilities. Vague and insubstantial, I think you'll agree, but I'm not sure we've found Cabinet, but we are definitely a lot closer than we were when we started. More pragmatically, like the bank robber who's asked why he robbed banks, because that's where the money is. Well, the Turing is where the AI is, and that's why we came. And we have found quite a lot here, and in surprising but critical areas to us: ethics, governance, and edge AI. Joining a cohort of similarly minded companies, we have definitely found this, and this has been really important. The discussions that Manzoor alluded to previously, they have been an important part of our learning. And we may even have one or two collaborations coming from this overall course and program. And lastly, I've already talked at length about our ethics and governance journey, but that is important. To any company thinking of joining, I wholeheartedly recommend it. But two pieces of advice: come with an open mind, and you'll be met by others with the same. And be prepared for moments like this. To quote King Arthur in the Holy Grail, "This new learning amazes me, Sir Belvedere." Thank you very much. That's it. That's me.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kevin, for being a disembodied voice in the room. I hope you enjoy the rest of Italy. I know it's a struggle, but try. Great. Please do feel free to hang around. We will be taking questions at the end of this session, but in the interest of time, I'm going to whiz through over to Liam now. Oh, sorry, Adam. Apologize.
That's messing with Kevin.
Just got to do a bit of technical skipping so we don't spoil the final presentation. Okay, no, you're all mic'd up, so you have.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Hi, my name's Adam, and I'm going to talk about AI hiring and essentially fairness within CVs. So I work as a data scientist at Bayes Consulting. So at Bayes, we mainly work with government, but we also work with industry. And so we're a data analytics, data science consultancy, where a client would come in, gives us some data, and then we try solving the problem using some fancy machine learning techniques. Now, our vision is to help create a world that is positively impacted by maths. We have this motto, and that is maths, not magic, where we try solving all our solutions in a mathematical way with explainability at its core. We are a tech company. We're grounded in the belief that tech can also help the greater society. And we believe that maths is a driver for social change, and no one should be left behind. Okay, so bias. So in 2024, Bayes worked in partnership with Coefficient, and we had some funding from UKRI, where we try to assess fairness within CV, or especially in CV screening tools. And so we saw some statistics. So an interesting statistic here is that 79% of companies like to use AI in their hiring process. And also 45% of job seekers, so applicants, also like using AI to enhance their CVs. So you have on one side an AI tool trying to recruit people, and on the other side you have an AI tool that tries to recruit, right? So it's like AI kind of hiring itself. And so what we try to answer is the following, and that is, can we find algorithmic representation of what bias actually means? And then also, how can we understand how these screening tools make these final decisions? And lastly, how can we ensure that there is no bias, there is no discrimination, and there is fairness? Now, bias is an estimator for a decision-making process, which leads to some systematic errors. Fairness, on the other hand, is where you have two groups that are equally treated, and you can do various statistical tests to test for that. But the most important thing to note here is that fairness does not always imply that there's no bias, right? Bias and fairness are part of the same coin, but essentially they're two different sides. Now, another definition for bias is essentially you may have some personal opinions about a thing or about another person. And because of your personal opinions, you might decide to base your judgment on these opinions. Now, algorithms do not have opinions, right? And so where do these opinions actually come from? And that is because of the data that these AI models are trained upon. Okay, so for example, more men were hired for more senior positions. Now, if that is the data that is fed to the algorithm, then the algorithm would try to learn some causal relationships between being a man and also being hired for a senior position. Now, we had a few key takeaways from our case study, and that is that we understand that AI is here, it's going to stay. And so what we need to do is essentially highlight certain things that we should consider about an AI screening tool before we decide to use it. And so the first one is that we want the data that, so we want to understand what data is being used to train these screening tools, right? Because if we can understand or see the data that is being used, then we can try to detect if there are any biases within the data. We also would like some transparency and explainability. Now, this may not be as easy because a lot of these screening tools are black box models where it's input and output. So we have really no idea what is happening underneath. But essentially, if we can understand how these models work, then we can understand why they make certain decisions. And number three, expected outcomes. So suppose we are able to understand what would be the expected outcome. Then from here, what we can do is reverse engineer in a case where we have some unexpected results and understand why is there a difference. And lastly, auditing and monitoring. So the idea here would be is that we should have some monitoring or auditing of these AI screening tools, especially if there have been mistakes. So for example, if we are using an AI screening tool and we discover that there was a mistake in terms of its predictions, what we should do is document this somewhere such that for future reference, we can ensure that these mistakes are not made. There's some references that are used, but thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Adam. That's amazing. I'm just going to do a little plug in the room while we get set up with the other one for submitting your questions on Slido for this group. We already have a couple, but please do add some more before we finish this session. So I know they would love to chat about the work that they've been doing.
Just everyone by physical technology here. Right.
You don't need anything else, you just add your screen with your slide.
Can I have the clicker?
Yes, clicker.
Can I have the thing for the clicker that plugs in?
Yes, easy. That one.
Finally, in this session, delighted to welcome to the stage Liam McGee from Kaiasm. Big round of applause for Liam.
That was a little low energy. Come on, guys. So how are we all feeling? Do moose antlers. If you're happy moose like that, if you're feeling a bit tired like that. Oh, it's not too bad.
The third banoffee pie.
Totally.
So hiya, Kevin. Let's see if I can beat you for an entertainment value. So yeah, basically this AI stuff is quite exhausting, right? It's like keeping track of American trade policy at the moment. It's just constant changes of information coming in. You build a lovely system, new model comes out, you've got to retest everything again. It's really exhausting. I'm going to keep stalling until that's full screen, yeah. What we thought is just like take a moment, take a step back. Don't try and work out how the world is going to change in the next 5 years. It's hard enough to understand how it's going to change in the next 5 weeks at the moment. Work out what's going to stay the same. Instead of doing that from first principles, we went and asked about 80 different CIOs, CDOs and things. And this is some of the results for this. So let's see if this will work. So going to, yes. So I think this is only chapter 1 of a long story. What we decided to do was build a neurosymbolic architecture because, you know, that's the cool stuff, right? If you listen to Kurt Cagle or any of those guys, using our product, which is Kaiasm on Kai, and Andreas's lovely Avantra Air. So Avantra are a kind of SAP integrator dealing with lots of really interesting, chunky manufacturing logistics companies doing real things out in the real world, to automatically prevent a $2.8 million loss and to justify it in a way that is transparent to informal human reasoning. You think we can do it? Yeah, let's give it a go. 8 minutes. Let's see if we can do it. Okay, so there's the big challenge that came out from all our interviews of various CIOs, CDOs, people like that, heads of data architecture. Two main problems, two things that aren't going to change no matter what else changes in technology, right? This is continual, and it's always been continual since I was a baby computer scientist with James in the 1990s. And that everybody, this came out of a load of National Highways work actually, they've got a load of messy knowledge. Half of their stuff is managed in individual Excel sheets in people's personal SharePoint folders. There are lots of different perspectives. There are lots of people who've carefully divided up the world into name chunks and other people who vehemently disagree with their crazy categorization, both of which are in use in the same organization, different parts of it. Not enough context, lots and lots of data, loads of data. Nobody ever really does like the data dictionary, not well. And if they do it, they do it for their team, not for people 5 years down the line from a completely different silo. Not enough long data supply chains. You're not even producing your own data. You're bringing it in from other people, you're sending it out to other people, and you don't know where to start. And time is pressing because somebody said, look, here's a budget. Please do AI. And you go, where do I start? This is a very big elephant to eat. Next problem, skills gap. We've got loads of people in National Highways who know a hell of a lot about asphalt, but they don't know a lot about AI engineering, and that is as it should be. There are also some kind of really, really smart data architects and data engineers. They know nothing about asphalt. Well, I'm a bit, but only kind of off to the edges. No one's expert in both. And the available tools are like enduring a punishment beating, as we've had described by an Arab engineer, using things like Protégé and whatnot. It's too much work. Too few people, can't afford to recruit, and you're stuck on public sector pay scales if you're in the public sector. So it's no good sort of trying to tempt in top flight AI talent on 35K salaries. Doesn't happen. So that's the elephant in the room. And to keep with our elephant theme, it's very much like the Buddhist fable of the blind man and the elephant, where a new animal is introduced to a group of guys, none of them can see, they all feel different parts of the elephant. One of them says, is definitely like a spear, because this is very sharp and pointy. Somebody says, no, more like a wall, and it's like a tree, it's a brush, it's a fan. No, and even the people at the top don't see the whole elephant, right? They see just the top of the elephant. But they're all right. It is like all of those things in all of those ways in their area of the elephant. And there's loads of stuff to describe. So the question is, everybody's got a bit of the picture. Can we map the whole picture in a way that we can give to an AI? So, and this isn't just the normal data models and things like that. This is regulation and legal and data governance and people and teams and policies and processes and loads of other stuff. Arbitrary knowledge structures, usually poorly defined, usually fluffily defined. And you have to bring people on that journey to define them more carefully. Okay. So, solution, obviously. Our lovely platform, 3 principles. Embrace the mess. It's okay. It's a total catastrophe out there. We know that. It's all right. Bring it in the state it's in. Don't insist it's valid RDF or something before you'll even look at it. We'll take it all. Secondly, use the people and skills you already have. You don't have a phalanx of extra people to do this. You need to use the people in your organization right now. Also, it makes them more relaxed about not having suddenly all of their jobs disappear as the skills move on. And secondly, it's got to be easy. It's got to be easy to understand, because it's no good saying, hi, here's my complicated network model. No, you need to give it in a way that humans can traverse, memorize, navigate. It's exactly the same problem as somebody with a multi-category retail website has. How do you set out your 30,000 different products in a way that is obvious where you've got to go? Okay. And how you do it is as important as what? You can't just say, hi, I'm really clever at this and I'm going to do it all for you, because there's too much to do anyway, and you don't know as much about asphalt as they do. So you start with, let us do some for you. Let us do some for you. Well, you watch in a voyeur sort of way, then hold my hand. So we'll hold hands together and do it together in a mentor relationship. And then finally, here's the tools, here's the instructions, good luck. We have moved National Highways through that path, then people are cheerfully going around with a wheelbarrow saying, bring out your taxonomies, bring out your terrible spreadsheets, and we'll load them in for you. Within National Highways, people who are not part of the CDO, people who are not data people. And this makes sure that we can all create a trustworthy knowledge infrastructure. So far, so good. We've done that before we went to Turing. And then we thought, hang on. Is this an AI-ready knowledge infrastructure that we can use to underpin lots of kind of hallucinatory lunatic LLMs? Maybe. Okay, so what have we got? We've got a methodology, we've got an existing software tool, it supports AI, but it also supports a lot of like normal stuff. So you can kind of fool people into getting involved with AI by saying, look, it will make your day job easier. Yes, you've done that, brilliant. By the way, this is much better for your AI structure. And then you've got to make people feel their own perspective will be honored in the model. They're not going to be steamrolled into this. Their opinion's important. That's really important for buy-in, we discovered. So quick technical thing of how it works. We thought, could we plug it into a sort of production-ready AI offering that already was being kind of thought about being deployed in large manufacturing contexts? And we thought, hi, Andreas, would you mind just giving us some free time for like 6 months? And this is what we did. So where do we start? Existing data and knowledge. Great. So you've got institutional data in silos, poorly documented. You've got operating model, often in people's heads, actually. But if you're lucky, you paid Accenture 3 million quid to come in and give you a load of slides. And then institutional knowledge, just genuine tacit knowledge. Okay. Then onto kind of method and environment. Let's bring it in. What we've got is institutional data as records, and then we know stuff. You bring that in through lots of different ways that often have recorded it, but otherwise you can just interview it out of them into human-generated knowledge models. Once you've done that, you can automate that again and again as it changes. And then you go through an audit process. So you allow people to argue and disagree, and you don't even need to resolve the disagreements. You can actually hold all of those differing definitions and names in the same set, different languages, different disciplines. And then eventually you publish bits of it, the bits you're proud of, out to the rest of the world. And that can go round to other members of the organization, say, hey, this is how it all works. And you can also send it out to your data supply chain saying, in this contract, here are the information requirements in JSON, don't mess them up. Not a word file. Avantra Air, then how do we plug it in? Okay, so large language models base their understanding of the world on lots of open data, which is great. But they don't understand how your business works, so you have to kind of feed it with stuff. And what Avantra Air already does is it hauls in a load of data and tries to make sense of it, blows it apart, puts it back together in cool ways. It's very cool. So we thought, okay, I reckon we can nail this in somehow. So the first obvious thing is, well, people really hate defining terms, okay? It's really hard to get them to do it. So what we're going to do is get, based on some institutional data, just get Air to suggest a knowledge model, which it did. It'll be kind of okay, it won't be right, but that's all right. It's a lot better than trying to build it from scratch, and you can use it to inform your existing human models. Great. And once you've fixed it, it goes around as a training set to say, like that next time, idiot Air. Sorry, it's a lovely, lovely. Right, and that's your first continuous improvement cycle. So you've got this kind of train suggesting, which empowers existing staff. People get very into it. How am I doing for time? Good. You haven't seen the other 20 slides yet. Right, faster, more accurate. Yes, so you're working together. This isn't AI augmented humans. This is human augmented AI. Much better that way around. Next sort of bit is to go, okay, I can like define some data cleaning rules actually in my set of knowledge models. That's a bit boring, won't talk about that. The interesting bit is contextualizing. It's giving you information. You don't just have this data joined to this data. You have, no, this is a thing which is a part of that thing, or it's a kind of that thing, or it happens after that thing. And that kind of information, that's all sorts of interesting inferences to be made that you can't make on the data alone. That gives you better insights. So that gives you magical knowledge views, which is your next lovely virtuous circle. So better structured, more meaningful knowledge pulled together by humans and validated and audited gives you better insights. Last one, agentic decisions. Okay, So you can instruct and justify. And justify is an important term here. We looked at explainability, but I don't think you can explain what an LLM is doing. I think all you can do is say, yes, but could you justify what you did in the court of law? And if you can justify decisions against existing encoded knowledge, this is the terminology and the way we know that our institution works, then you can say it's controllable and you've got regulatory compliance. Right, let's look at it. Oh yeah, and then you can manage your complicated shipping terminal. You also get to shove it out as inspectable logs. Right, 20 slides, 1 minute. Ready? Okay, so you can bring in all sorts of stuff. You can bring in data models. This is a time schema. This is like Avantra Realm. Oh God, this is going too quickly. Back a bit, back a bit. There we go. So that's basically a data warehouse, automated data warehouse built in. That was sucked out automatically. We didn't have to touch that. Server for SAP. You bring and then we can. I'm going to stop the share. Going to restart the share. Am I talking too fast? Stupid internet. Stupid technology. Right.
Right, you have plenty of time.
You haven't seen how many slides. Okay. Okay, we're good. Okay. So this is as it. Thank you. Okay, this is coming in raw, slowly, and then humans go and correct it slowly. This is basically saying that was a bunch of joins. These are all saying these are part of SAP server. These are part of the whole relationship. This is what SAP server is, and I've defined it all. This is when we say, let's join all the data models together. Because this takes ages, right? No, it doesn't. 30 seconds, bang. And you can spot things like, oh, hang on, longitude is a data type string. That's good, because it's not a number. But in another set, it's got data type float. Right. And this allows you to clean stuff at that point. You can also have comments on stuff. This is a conceptual model. So this is basically somebody's really good at shipping containers, setting out everything they know about shipping containers for other people to then mock or comment on, as we also call it. This is lots of different shipping containers. Imagine at this point, you can see a detailed process and operating model. Right, good. So this is basically, oh, you are joking me. Tasks, agents, stuff dumped into an RDF database, people putting in things about, wow, this is really bad. And here's a picture of the whole elephant. Okay, there's a lot of stuff in it, but a lot of it was brought in very quickly, very easily, in a way that lots of different people within the organization could engage with and argue about and redefine. So let's have a look at what that helps you do. So let's go and have a look at what the logistics execution bit is. Okay, it's there, and it connects to a bunch of things. So let's just filter on that one. There we go. So that's the logistics execution module. It's in the delivery and returns module, and we can tell a bunch of different things about it. So we can tell what it connects to, but we can go into lots of data, so information. So that was generated on the fly, yes. These were also generated on the fly, and these were all brought in, which you can then go check. We don't have any synonyms because we haven't got a bunch of humans involved yet to say, no, 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 I don't call it that. But you can say, well, it's called that in full, but that's an acronym. And it's referred to both across documentation. That's really hard for a large language model to realize if you don't be explicit. We also thought, okay, let's feed the entirety of the Turing AI governance master's degree course through and just go and say, okay, I want to bring that out as process elements to say, have I ticked all these off? So already useful for all of this stuff. It's a machine-readable operating model, which is really cool, and will obviously put Accenture and Co out of business because we don't need them anymore. And then you now can use it to add context to the AI. So what do we know? Without any context, we know that server 3 is unreachable, and we can get AIR to go and tell us a few things. So it gives you some fairly generic advisory about what sort of things could go wrong. But as an experienced line 1 support person, you would know to look at this stuff anyway. You also sort of say, okay, I can't reach the server. Please give me some suggestions. And it suggests things like, maybe we could wave a magic wand over it or communicate it with telepathically, or quantum entanglement looks promising. None of these are good ideas, but it was the best it could do if all it knew that there's a thing called server 3 and I can't contact it and I need to know what to do next. Okay, now let's add some context. This isn't even a lot of context. So we go, okay, an incident warning is triggered. Server 3 is unreachable. What do we know? Oh, server 3 monitors dispatching bay 0017. I think we could probably get that out automatically, right? And we also know that it holds the logistics execution delivery and returns module, and also bay 0017 is the high value dispatching bay. That's maybe bad. Because if the trucks can't unload, then they queue. And then that means trucks can't get out because of the trucks coming in. And that means you don't get your ship. This is a bad thing. But this can work it out because it can say, what was the likely impact if it knows that each container is $10,000? Now, that wasn't in the data. It had to infer that from the set of things that were happening. It actually comes out to $2.88 million worth of delay that you probably don't want to happen. And by just visualizing it with large things are valuable means that you instantly, as a human, know what to look at. You don't need to think about that bit. It's the part of your brain that goes, ah, lion. Okay, it's not, you don't need any cognition. So then the next thing is, all right, do we have some intentions that we've documented within the company? General, avoid high cost downtime. More specific, prevent servers going offline, please. Okay, given that, we now need to have a decision.
In 2 minutes.
Agent. Okay, so you can re-listen to this again on point 5. Show the human asserted rule for intent. Right, good. Now, set out your proposed steps, please, agent. Now you've got a choice. You can either say, if this is a high consequence thing, then please pass this by a human before you go and do it. And if it's actually pretty minor and the consequence of doing it or not doing it in the normal flow of things is just boring, then just go and do it. But please keep a record of what you did for the later court case. And then you go into the justification. You say, all right, justify your decision. And we're really particular how we're justifying the decision because we're saying, what's the evidence? How good is the evidence? What is the logical path, the warrant that connects the evidence to your decision? Because the warrant is usually the weakest part of any legal argument. That's what you attack. You set out the justification, good. So that is then broken down. So what I just broke down was into a Toolman argument. So that's evidence and warrant and backing and rebuttal and counter-rebuttal. In fact, I've written those down. You can get the Gen AI to do this. And you can determine whether it made sense as a justification. So let's just burn through those. So bunch of things that were true. And that's it. That's as far as we got. That was chapter 1. All right. It's quite cool, chapter 1. So what next? What would we like? We'd like to run some additional pilots in operational conditions. And anyone else in the room who fancies it. We want to add evidential provenance. So this is where, this is the database call that went for the evidence. We want to continue to develop transparency in the UI. I'd like to show which bits came from the AI and which bits a human has signed off. Neurosymbolic AI in general, I'd like to test it in the context of policy development. It's a really interesting area for modeling regulatory and policy disagreement and generation. Better justification, abductive hypothesis selection. So Gen AI is good at this. Say, given the limited facts I have, give me 15 things I could do. Now select the one that's the loveliest and the likeliest. And then different ethical frames. So that is formally setting out control surfaces, if you like, on the AI to say, this is right and wrong, deontic. This is wrong because consequential. And this is a general habit of action that you should develop. So when shit really goes down, things really go down, that you automatically do the right thing because you're used to it as a pattern. And then user experience. So if anybody would like to come and explore an elephant with us, please do get in touch with me afterwards. This is, the slide I won't cover. We work for people, we have partners, we're really interested in these people. And this is me. So map, elephant over beer or coffee with cake or cheese. Thank you very much.